fantastic, whatever day you're on this. I am in the shop sweating. This is going to be a bit of a short show tonight. But yeah, working on the new addition to the stable 2020, almost said Kawasaki, Katana, made by Suzuki. A little bit of a motorcycle chat show tonight more than anything else. That's the big news going on around this neck of the woods. Don't have any real car content to bring you guys because, well, there's none to talk about. But what I can tell you is that the Ford F1 job dragging the truck, or dragging the, being a truck and dragging the bike from down here in Velocito all the way to Plano, Texas, which is by Dallas. So it's a long way away. But anyway, I had a good time. Got a chance to meet some cool folks and pick up a hell of a bike. Now, I'm in the process of getting the bike cleaned up. Came through a hell of a rainstorm on the way back down here. Getting the bike cleaned up. What's up, Hard Rock? Hope you're doing good, bud. But was able to spend a little bit of time with that thing. And as I'm putting it together and as I'm doing work to that bike, I'll be bringing you content on it. But what I got to tell you is it's pretty good. So comparing it to the Kawasaki is kind of hard because they're completely different platforms. You don't really, but it's a motorcycle. So you can compare them, right? You can compare anything, but it's really not fair to the Kawasaki to compare it to the Katana. Even with the Kawasaki, with all of its upgrades that it had, it is only equal to the bone stock Katana, and that is only in certain gears that it's actually got any chance of hanging with that bike. And again, we're talking stock. I already know what it looks like when that bike rolls across a bike like what I have, at least from the same family of bikes, that's been tuned with an exhaust, really just a slip on and a cat delete. It is unfair, the difference of power. But it's not just the power, guys. Power is a subjective thing. It's more about how smooth the thing is and how easy it is and how playful it is. It's just, when I say that the Kawasaki is playful, that's one thing, but this thing is on a completely different level. This thing is like, it's like a Labrador retriever on a caffeine bender. I mean, it's just absolutely into it. So, I'm already having fun with the bike, but if you haven't seen the video that I just put out, I don't want to get too deep into some details on this bike, but suffice it to say, I'll just put it to you like this. It still has a long way to go to get through break-in miles, and it's in 2020. So I'll be doing the first oil change here real soon. And then from there, it'll just be a matter of going through the normal protocol. It's coming up on its first oil change, not its first service, like my own mileage oil change part. And it'll typically get 2 oil changes as it hits 1,000 miles, and it hasn't hit the first one yet. So the guy that had this bike before didn't really ride it ever. Had some things done to it, had some heated grips, which are, and had a cruise control put on it, which I still don't understand how that thing works. But anyway, the heated grips are like as big around as, like, they're huge. And so it's creating a problem. I've got so Orange Crush has a GSX S 1000, and he's hooking me up with the handlebars that are off of that bike, which are a lot shorter than the ones that are on the Katana. But I need new bars anyway, because the heated grips are, and I'm not kidding, it's about 5 millimeters. Well, I don't have the ability to lobster claw the clutch. I've always been 2 fingers, and I've always used my knuckles as a stop. Well, the thing is that with that fat assed grip, you can't really get the full travel, and that lever is non-adjustable. So not that it needs to be, it's just that the grip needs to be smaller, and it'll be perfectly fine. It'll be perfectly serviceable at that point. But I have been able to get the bike out and play with it. Again, the bike had never been on the side of its tire when I rode it first time. The thing got a little squirrely. But since then, I've been trying to scuff in the tires a little bit. I spent about, I don't know, about, let's say 20 minutes just hitting really tight right-handers, really, and hitting U-turns and just trying to power out of those things as best I can. It's actually, if you compare it to the Kawasaki, it's a little soft down low. But it's just like any other leader class bike. It will keep building power until it just simply runs out of RPM. And in this case, it's just until it runs out of camshaft. And that's what this bike does. It'll rev clean to 11.5. So it's got at least an extra 1,000 RPM over the smaller engine that it's replacing. And it's, once it gets to about 7,000, 8,000 RPM, it is not the same at all. It's not even worth trying to compare the two. So, but I am enjoying it a lot. And again, as I get that thing sorted out, I will be bringing that content to you guys. You can see what I'm up to. Make sure I'm not missing anybody. Ryan is in. DM. Got the bald guy with the shades. Got the cadence right. Saying, yeah, buddy, nice bike. Good evening, chat and friends. Thank you. Brent saying, hello, all. Hello, Brent. Yeah, so I've got not a ton of I've got experience with Suzuki's for sure. I mean, my motorcycle that I don't want to say got into the most trouble with, but the track bike, the one that I used to blast through San Francisco, that was a GSXR 750. The shop that I raced out of tuned a lot of GSXR 1000s. I had ridden a couple of those while I was there of the same year, same platform. Always loved those bikes because they were so smooth. And they're always on a different plane of existence when you try to compare them to like a CBR 1000 of the same vintage. The running joke with the GSXR 1000 is that if the GSXR 1000 was 1,000 cc's, then the Honda was 950 or 900, right? It was just, it was always a step behind the Suzuki. And you can really still feel it to this day. It's the same type of platform from back then. So that's a fun thing. Other than that, like I say, truck did great, did better than 17 miles per gallon. I didn't reset it, but it did really well on the way up there and on the way back. I cruising along at 80, 85 miles an hour, just having a good time. So as you would expect, no drama there with that truck either. Sounded good. If you watch the video, I didn't realize that truck is the exhaust on the microphone in the phone is pretty boomy sounding. So yeah, it sounded pretty good. But anyway, if you guys have any questions on the bike stuff, free to jump in. I would get into the whole Mopar thing, but I mean, there's nothing really to talk about there. Ford seems to just still be killing it with the S650. Camaro, Lord only knows what's going to end up happening with that thing. I've heard that it's going to go from what you're used to seeing now to some type of internal, or it's no longer going to be internal combustion. It's going to be an electric vehicle or something along those lines, which I'm still, that's cringy. But speaking of cringy, have you guys seen what the new Charger looks like? I'm not a big fan. DM saying, I'm loving the Cold War Kid Urban Street Fighter. That thing looks bad. Thanks, bro. That's exactly why I got that bike. So I had mentioned the Katana before, and I had mentioned it kind of in passing. I'd kind of floated it out there a little bit, only because I couldn't find one. So get a load of this. Now, the bike is a neat bike. I love the just killer Cold War Kid presence of that bike, though. And it's not trying to be a simulation. It's just it's like a manifestation of a newer version of the 1982 Katana, which is something that I really like. And this kind of gets into like what Dodge, watch me blend this into Mopar chat, right? But it reminds me a lot of what Ford did with the Mustang, where they took the 1969 and then later the 1970 Mustang, and they started off as a bit of a almost a recreation, but still a modernization of those same body lines, where Kawasaki did an amazing job of replicating those body lines. This is more of an evolution of that. It's just got every cool, badass Cold War reference going on in there. Absolutely love it. So, it is taking a little bit to get used to. It will absolutely have to either have a set of different bars, or I got to figure out what the hell I'm going to do with the bars that are on it, because it's got these freaking Debo Beach Cruiser handlebars that come on that bike from the factory. I don't get it, but it is what it is. But the GSX-S has a more flat bar, and that's what I'll be picking up tomorrow for it. But it is, it's more my era of a thing. And so anyway, this is what I was trying to get at when I was saying, okay, well, look at what Ford did with the Mustang. It is a modern evolution of a 1970 car, where the Challenger was more of almost like a big replica of the Challenger that it was, but it's also an evolution, right? But you can kind of see where I'm going with the Challenger was a bit more of a true to form type of an effort, I guess you could say. Well, that's what I like about the Katana. Now, the reason why the Katana never really took off, there's a few reasons. One, cost. Two, though, it does have a small gas tank. It's got a 3-gallon gas tank. Actually, just the other side of 3 gallons. I haven't burned through a gas tank. It's that exhaust is side-eyed me. It's got to go. The exhaust is probably going to be an M4. And I will probably just do a cat delete and an M4 slip-on, if I'm being honest. It'll get a more Mafia tune. It'll have the restrictor plate removed, and it'll have the like a DNA or a Sprint filter, something like that, thrown in there. So, and I got to tell you, it's kind of funny because I did take it out today, and it is more stable while accelerating harder than the Cowie. I can still get a little bit of an acceleration wiggle out of it, but it's real minor, and it's less than the Kawasaki. And even with the Street Fighter, the seating position, the minute you get off of that bike and you start to drop in, that bike just hello and just walks right wherever you want it to go. You want it to go left, you want it to go right. It's literally, you're just turning your head and the bike falls into the corner. It's real nice. The Kawasaki did take effort. Like you had to usher it to do things. Where this thing, it just happens. It's so nice. And it reminds me a lot of the K5 Gixxer that I rode way back in the day. Now, granted, I think there was 2 of those that I had ridden. I think for some reason, I know one of them was really well massaged. That's not how this bike runs. That was a completely different effort altogether. But the stock bike, this is very similar to that. I don't know that I can tell much of a difference, but I can tell you this. What a fun bike to ride. And the styling, I absolutely love it. But in its in an unrestricted version of that bike is actually pretty sick. Mid 150s to the rear tire, which puts it on par with any of the early 2000s leader class bikes. At least it puts it in the same conversation with smaller camshafts. You'll still get the horsepower, but you get a little bit better torque down low. So there's that to talk about with these things. But once the exhaust gets swapped out, it gets tuned, filter, restrictor plate removed. Oh, I got to get rid of that shovel that is the rear license plate holder and all that. That has got to go. But that's already been ordered up, so we're good to go. It does have that aftermarket. It's a standalone wind deflector, and it's actually pretty trick. I was thinking about getting a different one for the bike, but I can't say that I don't like the one that's on it. So it's kind of grown on me a little bit. It does stand off of the front, and it's it's just using existing bolts, and it just kind of stands off of that existing the existing front. I believe it's called it's like a display shield or something like that. They don't even call it a wind deflector. So anyway, those are the plans for the bike. Really don't have to do a lot other than put a different set of tires on the thing. But it's already performing, handling, and doing better than the Kawasaki did. And I barely had a chance to even get warmed up with this thing because it's still got to go through break-in. And the tires are, not really, they're not like, Rosso 3s, Rosso 4s, or, S22, S23. They're not like that. But I've got enough confidence in them to where I'm hitting the corners at the same speeds and with the same aggression that I was with the Kawasaki with the S22s, if that gives you a barometer from where I'm at with this bike already. But it does kind of go back to the Mopar chat thing, because one of the issues that I've seen, I don't know if you guys saw OC Motivator's video where he's showing the new Charger, the EV thing. And it was kind of telling. I see where he's going with where he's coming from also too with that video. Like, look, have an open mind. This is what it looks like. But the reality is that when I see that car, I see somebody trying way too hard. I don't want to say I don't like it. I'm not going to say that I don't like it, because it's good stuff. Yeah, Acro makes a really good kit. So does Yoshi, and I've got a little bit of a soft spot for Yoshimura, because that's everything that I always ran on my GSXR 750 was Yoshi, and Yoshi was on everything that came out of NorCal Cycles. Anything that they could put a Yoshimura pipe on, they would, and a lot of them were Suzuki's. So yeah, everybody ran Yoshi. So, but the M4 looks good. It's got a really nice lower cover that goes along with it. So they're all good. They all sound really good. So it's just, it's a Suzuki, man. I almost have to put a Yoshi on there, right? Anyway. Yeah, it's just going to have a cat delete in the Yoshi pipe. But when I saw that car, I just thought, oh, they're trying way too hard, man. They're nostalgia baiting again. And the problem is that they're pointing that thing in the wrong direction. I'm afraid that what we're going to be left with with Dodge is going to be about 7 years worth of performance cars that actually perform fairly well, but don't perform well enough to deserve to be a continuation. I think they're just going to go through their, the normal platform life cycle. In this case, it'll probably get truncated. I don't know why I'm thinking 7, but 7 years seems to be about right. And that'll be it. I think that's all you're going to be seeing. So, yeah, there is that. So let me check in with you guys some more. It's up, B-Wo. It's fireworks ludicrous mode over here tonight. I bet. It's going to get crazy. DM saying, please look at the Acro or Yoshi. Yeah, like Yoshi pipes. The new Daytona is another Yamaha R7 as far as seating position, but has a 600-ish cc triple. Yeah, the new Daytona. Yes, it does. 660 and 90 horsepower. Yep, just the other side of it. Sick looking bike will compete more against the Aprilia RS660 and Tuono 660. Correct. I've not ridden that bike yet. The Daytona 660 is at the top of the class with the Aprilia and the CBR 650. They're all really good A2 bikes. And, a lot of people were complaining about the Daytona because it doesn't have adjustable front suspension. It's got preload adjustment in the back. And again, I haven't ridden one yet, but I can tell you that just from sitting on the bike and from, just being around bikes quite a bit in general, there's two things about that bike. One, the buyer of that motorcycle is not typically going to be a big dude anyway. That's going to be a smaller guy. Typically, he's going to weigh less than about 190 pounds, which isn't a small guy. I'm just saying that's like the extreme high end of that bargain. That's the impression that I get. So if you're in gear at 190 or 200 pounds, you're probably going to be at the limit of what that suspension is going to be able to manage at speed at the track, so to speak. But for the street, it'll be perfectly fine for anybody, and it'll have power. And I'm waiting to see how it does with the flash and exhaust and everything else. But all of the A2 bikes that we were just talking about, the Honda, the Aprilias, and the Daytona. It's one of those things where they're just kind of they're built to a price point too. You got to remember that's a $10,000 bike, and there's only so much technology that you can force feed into one of those things, and that's kind of where you're at with that bike. So anyway, I think that it's a shame that they didn't hot rod the 765. And I mean, really hot rod it. I don't want to see a 765 with 135 horsepower. I want to see it like 135 at the rear wheel. That's what we need to see. And until, man, I hate to say this, but until Triumph comes up with a bike like that, I just don't know what they're going to sell. Yeah, the bikes that sell the most are the Tridents and the Speed Twins. Two motorcycles that aren't making 100 horsepower. That's what drives the boat, basically. I think that the Speed Triple needs to be revamped. Not that has anything to do with the Daytona, but I mean, if you're going to call something a Daytona, I'd just like for them to bring back at least the 765. And if nothing else, guys, listen, the 900 Triple that's in the Tiger, if you can wedge that into a sport bike platform, that would be a dynamite little motorcycle. I mean, it'd give you something else to do with the engine, and my gosh, that would be a nasty little hot rod. DM saying Yosha's period correct. Yes, it is. Skids, yes, I did. There has been a couple of videos that I've put out, one of them on the way home with the bike, kind of an outro for the Cowie. And then I did just released it, just popped up. It might not even be in your feed yet, but there is a welcoming of the bike into the stable. The Cowie had to skedaddle to make room for this bike, but it's a good swap, I think. Ryan's hanging out with Skids, looking at the 450 SS. Tell you what is it? CF Moto, the Zool or whatever it is, little 500 they're coming out with. Pretty sick. DMC, you got a 2020 Katana? Yes. Check if you get a chance. Check out the mileage on that Katana that I picked up today. Just when you get an opportunity to look at that video, look at how many miles are on that bike. Skid saying, hey Ryan, I would get another 450, or you may look at the Cowie ZX4RR. Good bike, by the way. Yeah, it really does depend on what kind of money you're looking at. Harder, I kept putting his foot down. That's funny. I raced motocross too. I missed it. Tell you what, if your budget's around $7,000 on the used side, you can get some pretty nice bikes for that kind of coin. The small Aprilia is good too. I didn't get a chance to hang out on the Aprilia side. I did get a chance to try on the Tuono factory though, and I like that bike a lot. The Tuono Factory is a really nice bike. Oh yeah, Skid's hanging out with Ryan. Yeah, bike prices are kind of holding steady right now. So, um, but yeah, if you guys haven't had a chance to see OC's video, check that out. He's got a he's got that the electric charger is on there, and I don't know, man. I just get the sense it's a business. Okay, you can't just, you're not supposed to be able to anyway, just piss money away the way that these folks seem to be doing it. But these are not good first efforts. In my opinion, I think that it could have gone far and away better. And the problem is that they don't present well. So what do I mean by that? Well, this is what I mean by that. EVs in general, you almost want them to look a certain way. You want them to look like an EV. And one of the things that Dodge is screwing up is that they're not differentiating their EV from their ICE counterparts. That's the impression that I get. And more to the point, and in perfect Dodge form, it's almost like they got them flipped. You ever wonder about that? It's like their electric charger looks like it should at least have the twin turbo 6 in it. If you run it on 93 octane, it performs beautifully. But the other thing that they were showing that I haven't, is it the same car? I don't even know. Anyway, the same body. Anyway, that's how little interest I have in this. I don't even know the boring, like just the low-hanging fruit details of that thing. And that's where a lot of folks are. I think that's more telling than anything else. Oh, it's an EV. Here's the problem with EV in this context. 5,800 pounds, hardly any real range to speak of. Is it fast? Everything is fast nowadays. Like, this is one of the weirdest times to be alive. It used to be that people would say, oh man, it's the horsepower golden era all over again. Here's the problem. Horsepower, torque, performance, it's a drug. Okay, it is a powerful ass drug. And it's, once you get used to a certain dose, you're not going to want to go back, right? That's exactly where all this horsepower war got us. It got us into these EVs that are startlingly fast. But the reality is that that's all they're good for. And now, since everything is fast, it's like nothing is fast. What? Something goes tens and something else goes tens? Am I supposed to even be impressed anymore? It's like tens are it used to joke and say, oh, tens are the new 12s. Nah, dude. 10s are the new 13s. They really are. They're just, it's another 10-second car. Throw another shrimp on the bobby. It's like there's nothing to get excited about. So, oh, wow, there's this thing and it goes at 1080 at 130 miles an hour. Wow. And this is, it's a bit of a symptom of the times that we live in. It's pretty easy to become bored, jaded maybe, with the power level and the performance envelope that these vehicles are offering up nowadays. And so when you look at it from that perspective, it needs to have style. It needs to have presence. It needs to have flash. It needs to have flair. It needs to have something that ties it to something that is actually grounded and cool, and not just what somebody contrived as cool, this simulacra of what cool is that it really isn't. So that's why for me, I just can't get into it. Man, I'm trying like a dang it, but I can't, because there's nothing unique. And one of the things that I said in the video when I was giving my exit, the exit inventory, my exit interview, so to speak, with that Kawasaki, And there was about 100 takes on that, by the way. The one that's up, fun fact, the one that's up, I don't even know if that's the best one, the worst one, or what. I know I at least got to the end of one of them, and I just had to post it. That was all she wrote. If I said it, great. I'll say it again. But if I didn't, the problem with the problem that with the Kawasaki is the same problem that Dodge is going to have with this Charger. Even if it looked great, but it doesn't. But let's say that it looks amazing. That will be the only hook that you will have to get anybody to buy it, just like the Kawasaki, because everything else about it is like it's not even middle of the road. The power, which is subjective, is low for the size of the engine that it is. And the type of bike that it is. The suspension is subpar. The brakes are good enough. Don't complain about brakes in this day and age. You can't complain about brakes. You can complain about master cylinder feel, but brakes are all pretty good. The Brembos on the Katana are really good. But anyway, there's got to be something else. The beauty can't just be skin deep. But Dodge hadn't even got that right yet, and that's the problem. You've got to have something cool. And they don't. And it sucks because I want to keep supporting Dodge. I still have the big red, white, and blue Mopar banner right above my head over here. So it's making me get to a point where I'm disinterested in the cars. I get to have Cold War kid fun with a motorcycle that kind of looks Cold War kiddish and offers up a performance envelope that nothing back then could deal with. I get to have fun with stuff that is fun to enjoy, where the numbers are just so irrelevant. Again, because listen, if everything is fast, nothing is fast, and everybody gets bored with the mundane. So it won't matter. People will look at this stuff the same way that any other enthusiast would look at a 14-second car. Like, wow, it sounds good, burns rubber, but it doesn't really go fast. That's how you're going to be talking about 10-second cars. That's how a lot of people already do talk about 10-second cars. And I know for a fact that's how a lot of people talk about 11-second cars, which used to be nasty fast. Those were trailer cars in some instances back in the day. So that's how far we've come. You're gonna end. Let's go ahead and say we're doing it now. You're talking about 10-second cars in the mundane, and it's like a malaise thing. Oh, it runs 10s. Well, that's like the healthy variant of it, of a vehicle, is that it did run a 10-second time. It's like it's as if like you have to be able to run a 5-minute mile or you're considered to be disabled. Maybe not 6-minute mile, or you're considered to be a disabled individual. That's where the performance standard is now for most cars. You put it to you another way. Whitey, the F-150, continues to blow my mind just in terms of what that truck's performance really is. That truck in about 100-degree air went a 13-second quarter mile. And I still think that is beguilingly hysterical. I think that is funny. That is entertaining as hell for me. For me to be able to have a truck that is full weight, even had a trailer hitch in the back of it, rubber floor mats. It runs a 13-second high, but it's still a 13-second quarter mile time in baking ass heat on gasoline, not even on the good stuff, not even on corn. That's where we are now with the performance envelope of any type of a performance-based vehicle. And so again, I challenge you to tell me, what car are you looking forward to? Which one? Give me, I don't want to talk about what might come. I want to talk about what is coming, and tell me what you're excited about. Right now, there's nothing to get excited about. And I'm sorry, but it's hard to stay motivated. It's hard to stay worked up over anything automotive right now. And Whereas on the motorcycle side, you can literally have whatever wets your whistle, man. You want, you know, just a freaking nasty ass squid rocket. There's freaking half a dozen of them that you could pick from that are all equally nasty. If you had, an inkling for whatever you want, you can find it in a bike. And that's the cool thing about it. But with the cars, you're losing options every year. I mean, we're losing beloved brands, and we're losing beloved cars that are part of those brands that made the brands great, made them awesome, and built the culture of the brand in its entirety. And that's what we're losing. And when you lose those individuals, what else do you have? Either you're done, right? So anyway, that's, my own rant on that. Let me check in with you guys. Oh, hang on. Hard Rock say my scat is my mistress. Yep. Hard Rock's liking the theater and the driving experience. Yeah. At this stage of the game, that's what you need to go by. And that's another thing. That's why one of the reasons I kind of got out of the whole Hellcat game, in Demon game, whatever game. It didn't matter that myself and one other guy were doing stuff that nobody else wanted to even jump in the middle of. And, nobody else wanted to play the game that we were playing. And, that's just the way that it is. Jim Mopar and myself, it's funny, but we really did set the bar pretty high. And I get it, but nobody cared. Nobody, I mean, I don't want to say nobody cared. That's not the right way to put it, but I think you know what I mean. You know what the intent is. So if you don't care about a 10.0 car that runs on 93 octane gasoline that a couple of guys have, put a lot of time and effort into making pretty cool, why are you going to worry about a 9-second anything car? One of my biggest arguments, and this is one of the things that, I had really leaned on, was, it was one of these things where, the OG Demon went in 965, allegedly. But the reality is that the fastest one that anybody had seen in as delivered form was Ray's. It was 978. Okay. And then it was beaten at 977 the next year. But anyway, you get the idea. The first time anybody did it, 978. And, well, wait a minute. If the new Demon doesn't go 8s consistently, then it's just another 9-second car. By anybody's estimation, by the type of logic that would work with somebody that really doesn't know what they're looking at, like they don't know the difference between a 970 and a 915. Like there is a humongous margin of difference between those two ETs. So much so that it's not even the same category, but they're still 9-second cars, right? So you have to put something together and you have to be able to cover a number consistently. And again, that's when you start to set the bar that high and you've moved expectations that far into one direction, the backswing can only go so far. So if you set the expectation at an 11, but you got something that's covering 13s or 14s, you're okay because you're on that backswing. But if you pull that lever back and you're in the 8s, your swing back 10s maybe at the slowest. I don't know. I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is whatever Dodge does, and if they say it's fast, whatever, nobody cares. I want to see how much it costs. The Corvette is still pretty much the one to beat when it comes to making power. And running numbers too. I mean, that car is still out there. The Mustang obviously is the people's champ of all of this, not counting the F-150 and the guys that are making the pickup trucks fast from all brands. But unfortunately, those guys are becoming more and more few and far between as well. Skids, yeah, 300 is the new 150, and that's no joke. I mean, six-cylinder put-around, get-around cars, 300 horsepower now. That still floors me. I'm not kidding. That trips me out that a base model Camaro or whatever is 330 horsepower, six-cylinder. Skid saying, I've owned Fast-ish as well. My ZL1 convertible was an absolute beast. I'm like you about your Hellcat. I don't miss it. It was almost too much for the street. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. I don't like. It's not that I don't like the idea of self-control. I don't like the idea that I have purchased something that is all but unusable. Only in certain circumstances is it even acceptable to be exercised, type of a thing. And one of the things I love about bikes is that I can have fun, and then stop. It satisfies my ADHD pretty well, I guess. DM saying the people need a car to drive. The Corvette, Challenger, and Charger have forgotten about that. That's the thing. And the Corvette's got a pretty decent female following, but the reality is that Mustang kind of owns the chick market, and there's the balance has to be there. You have to balance performance, reliability, cost, and the size of the thing. And there's so many things that have to be considered. It's not just one or two things. And a lot of us, we just look at the performance number because that's what sells. That is the sex of the world that we live in with this. And if that performance number isn't there, then it simply doesn't sell, right? Nobody is selling an experience. Nobody is selling the overall take of what that thing is going to bring. And that's a real shame. There's other aspects to the automobile other than just what kind of number it lays down. And by the way, it's gotten to the point where it's a little size queenish, if you're asking me. I'm just, it's just so boring. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of scampered out of the whole Hellcat thing. It's another one of the reasons. And not that I got bored. I didn't get bored. It was boring, though. It's like, well, let's wait till January, see if we can run a number. I'd still go to the track during the summertime, though. But it just became, you're always going after a number, but there's no theater. There's no context. There's no sense of arrival about that. And that's really one of the things that kind of bums me out about not about cars in general. They're not like motorcycles. Motorcycles are more of what automobiles used to be. An automobile was a suit of clothes that you wore when you went out. It made a statement about what you preferred, what you liked. It would be a conversation starter. If you like performance or you like the luxury, you like, the utility of something. It was always something that was it was part of the lifestyle. Everybody was a part of it, though. And there were so many different varieties to choose from. And they were all accepted and they were all cool. Performance guy talking to a utility guy, or a luxury guy talking to a performance guy, or whatever. Well, motorcycles are like that now. You can pretty much put on whatever suit of clothes you like. They're all still motorcycles, though. But they're all really cool. Bikes like the Katana, the Z900 RS, pick any of the bikes that come to mind. They have their own ethos about them because that is the brand that they are. And there's a certain sense of arrival again with those bikes that cars don't have anymore. They all look like this remote control to me. There's nothing to it. Perfect example. Okay, let's dive into that for a hot second. I was coming home bikes on the trailer, and I'm coming up on this crossover SUV looking thing, and it didn't really ring a bell for me. Like my brain could not isolate the pattern of the image that this contraption was making in my head. I was like, what in the world is that? And it was a Jeep Cherokee, like one of these new ones, like one of the crossover looking things. This is how much I don't pay attention. I did not recognize that thing. Didn't recognize it. And I thought, damn, how far have you fallen, my friend? I used to have a Jeep Cherokee. My dad had a Cherokee. We both loved them. But it was a true small utility thing. It was a badass utility ride. And it always kind of bummed me out that that vehicle went away. But where did it go? I don't know. Well, apparently it went the way of the people in the movie WALL-E and basically turned itself into a narwhal. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm just going, oh my God, dude, is that what sells now? Like this bubblicious looking thing? That's what sells? Like it looked like chewing gum. It looked like chewing gum just like every other crossover to me does. So it looks like an electric razor, a remote control, or a wad of chewing gum. It kind of floored me for a minute. Like, man, I need to pay attention to what I'm doing. It was just weird. And that's the kind of weirdness that I think has unfortunately taken over the automotive landscape. It's no longer it's no longer a lifestyle. And trying to sell it as a lifestyle now is a little bit cringy because people have got a lot better things to do with their money right now and a lot more important things to do with their money. That's why motorcycles are kind of popular. It's because they're a lot less expensive and you can have whatever kind of flavor you want. All right, say EVs are fast, but so what? They're soulless, politically correct video game cars. And that's the thing. Politically correct only because they've been sold and marketed that way. Those things are filthy for the environment. Oh, Skids, that's a great take. Old JDMs and old Bonnies are alive and well. Even the Enfields are bringing the heat. The Royal Enfield is supported from S&S in the aftermarket, big bore kits, you name it. That's pretty cool. And yeah, there's so much of the soul that's been taken out of the driving experience. Skid saying, wish Bonnie's had a big bore kit for the 900 and the 1200. Would be badass. It would be badass if they did. I'll tell you what, my Bonnie rips. I'm surprised at how that bike runs sometimes. And it really does kind of it's a nice bike. It's entertaining. I like it. Motor City said there's nothing that's exciting coming other than 100,000 plus cars, $100,000 cars. So here's the thing. That's a whole other topic. The cost of things today, groceries, everything, your water bill, your electricity, all of this stuff is unimaginably expensive now. Cars are the same way. It's absolutely crazy. Vote. The Aprilia RSV4. Yes, that is a badass bike, especially for the money. Yeah, they're trading right now at about $4 or $5 grand more than what I paid for the Katana. But I really wanted the Cold War kid aspect, that 80s look. Plus, it'll be all there once I'm done with it. Ryan, just want the pucker effect. I get it. Yeah, Skid said, I would own an EV to commute, but right now they're too expensive for a to and from. So here's the funny thing about that. They're not that cheap to fill her up, especially for some of these higher capacity rides. They're infringing upon gasoline in terms of what they cost to fill up. Not quite there, obviously, but it's getting there. They're crazy expensive. They take a significant investment at your house if you want to, use your house as your fuel refinery. Which in a lot of ways, I mean, the convenience of an EV is undeniable in some situations, but you got to be in some kind of a situation to be able to afford it, afford your own charger, afford to be able to rewire your house in a way that will allow you to use said charger. Um, I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter, provided that it charges your car overnight. But again, you've got to have the means to do that. And not most folks do. And then you run into a really nasty side effect of the EV world. And that side effect, or the side quest, you could almost say, is the fact that they have really not very good resale value. They've got the same failings as what you would find in anything that's run off of a battery. You know, it's just, battery starts to tank. Well, you got to get a new battery. So there's that. And the problem is that these batteries, if they're overstressed, overcharged, overheated, overlooked at, somebody walks by the thing and has a hard fart, they're going to freaking try to self-destruct. And of course it's always, the news goes to the house that's on fire, not the house that's not, right? Well, in this case, I guess that's no pun intended, but kind of well landed. But that's the issue that you have with these EVs. Yeah, there's some of them that burst into flames, and the videos that do showcase that happening, they do seem to get quite a bit of views. But the reality is that, yeah, they blow up like that, and it's a battery technology thing. Anyway, people start getting really skittish when what looks like a blowtorch could happen at any time is parked in their house and their family's asleep in there at night while that thing is charging. So apparently that's typically when those things twitch out. So anyway, skids, no value or budget. Yeah, I get that. Self-preservation is a real thing once you start getting around 50. Ryan said, if they had given me an electric Wraith, I would get behind it. The Wraith sounded like it was electric in the movie. Look, there are places for EVs. I've been a big fan of EVs. In fact, I have promoted EV technology as a great power plant under certain conditions. There's nothing wrong with it. Where people get pissed off is they don't like having something that has nothing to do with politics politicized. Like EVs. If you don't like EVs, you hate koalas. You want, fluffy bunnies to become incinerated by global warming, and birds, bald eagles will fall out of the sky like Christmas turkeys burned to a crisp before they even hit the ground because you didn't buy an EV. What the fuck? It's a freaking motor, dude. Like, you can't. That's like saying if you don't buy a V8, you're gonna, for every time a V8 is bought, an angel gets its wings, and it's like, which is true, by the way. But you know what I'm saying? It's one of these things where you cannot politicize a power plant. Like, it's so absurd. It's EV, you don't understand the impact that the batteries are better overall for the environment. Nobody gets a freaking stop. Just every time somebody starts yammering on like that, shut up. Okay, and if you're going to talk to anybody about that, go talk to the people in China, all right? Go talk to the countries that are massively outpacing the United States when it comes to pollution and human rights violations and everything else. Why don't you go protest to those guys, see how far that gets you. Oh, hang on. All right, saying I don't care about what the performance community thinks, trends, etc. I go by what grabs me in my soul. That's right. That's all you got to do, man. Whatever speaks to you. That's all that matters. Yep, the story why you picked the car for sure. Oh, Skids just saw a pic of the new bike. Sick. Liking it. Cool. The new Hyundai Santa Fe is not appealing. Jonathan's laughing. Yeah, DN, they all look like some kind of a electric, handheld appliance to me. Hard Rock saying, yeah, muscle cars are supposed to be for the working man. The problem is what has happened to that genre. It became, it became like everything else. It's had its moment. It got marketed heavily, overpriced, and now anytime you overprice something, you build resentment at some point in that product's life cycle. And I think that's where we're at right now. It's good saying, get out and vote for sure. Drain the swamp. Bring back the V8s. Make driving great again. Jonathan saying, I'm going to subscribe to this founder channel. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Oh, Hard Rock saying, I'm planning on a super stock. I am keeping the Hellraiser. Super stocks are nice. And I did give that platform a pretty, I kind of panned it a little bit. But I only panned it because of the price that the thing landed at. That thing was showing up at like $109,000 at one point. And it just wasn't a big enough jump from the red eye. And that was at a point in time right before the red eye started getting stupid expensive, though. Makes me think I should have gone back and bought 2 or 3 of those things. This kid's shake and bake. This kid's saying, welcome, Jonathan. But yeah, guys, that's kind of the wrap up on the bike in general. Tried to tie it in with a little bit of Mopar stuff, but the reality is that, look, the automotive community can take a big page out of where the motorcycle design element has been going. And it's a shame that we just don't have the variety and the sense of arrival that the motorcycle community has on the car side. I'm not saying that it should be as diverse as the motorcycle offerings are. I mean, think about it. You've got true retro riding experiences with Royal Enfield and the Triumph Bonneville platform. You've got hyper sports, super sports. You've got retro motorcycles. You've got true standards, the ADV guys, the cruiser cats. All of those guys have got their own niche products that they can pull from and call their own and really gravitate towards. And if, one doesn't suit your fancy, there's always something a little bit different, or there's always something around the corner that you can move to. And the automobiles, you just don't have that. You've got, like I was saying earlier, you got this pencil eraser, you've got an electric shaver, you've got, it's nothing that is remarkable. And like I say, I did not even recognize the Cherokee. That's how much I just don't care. So, there is that to think of. John saying, I got a donor truck for my 9 kiddos, a fucked up K5 2500. Nice. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Those are some of the best trucks ever. Hard Rock saying, smash the like button. Yes. Like, subscribe, and share if you're new to the channel. Thanks for stopping by, considering hitting that like button, and ring that bell for content heading your way. Don't you just love it when those guys do that? Skid saying, even the Sportster is almost the OG modern classic. Dude, let me tell you something about the Sportster. That is a stupid little motorcycle. 120 horsepower out of that new engine. And here's the thing about the Sportster. You want to know something funny? Wisdom Teeth Meds got me feeling a little too good. John's checking in. John's checking in from the spirit world, y'all. That's awesome. No, but so the new Sportster, $120 on the horsepower, right? I was talking to that buddy of mine, Orange Crush, who's hooking me up with the handlebars for the Katana. And we were talking and just kind of bullshitting one day about motorcycles in general. And he asked me he asked me if, John saying $266 for all 4 teeth. Stacking them deep, selling them cheap. If I was going to consider getting that Thruxton, and I said, bro, I don't know that I can get a Thruxton. I got the Bonneville. The Bonneville's good. I don't know that there's a performance envelope that the Thruxton would get me to, considering all the work I've put into the Bonneville to get it where it is today. And I said it doesn't really matter with the Thruxton. Basically, I was a little bit more vulgar than this, but I said, look, I don't want to get prison sexed by a freaking Sportster on my beefed up Thruxton. That would be terrible, okay? But it's true, okay? The Thruxton, as great of a bike as it is, and I love the Thruxton, but it's kind of not a whipping boy per se, but it really does lack when it comes to horsepower, not torque and not power in general. But it doesn't have the ability to rev to 9,500 or 10,000 RPM. And as such, it's just not going to make a big horsepower number. So that's a bit of a problem. And so when you look at it, like the Thruxton, it's supposed to be a performance variant of the Bonneville platform. I don't know. That's the reason why I ended up not getting it. Plus, they were so dadgum expensive. You guys know I love the Thruxton. There's a black Thruxton up at Triumph Houston that I would love to get my hands on, but the reality is that, number one, it's too expensive. I'll put it to you like this. If that bike were half the cost that it is, it would still be too expensive. Matter of fact, at a little bit more than half the cost of that bike, I got my Katana with no miles on it to speak of. So there's that. Hard Rock saying he's got to get oral surgery in the fall. Not looking forward to anesthesia. Oh, bummer. That sucks. It's had a cavity filled a month or so ago. Love the nitrous oxide. Funny, I have a story about that. What was that? What were they doing? They were doing something to my back, some back molars. Anyway, they gave me the little mask thing for the nitrous, and they go, just breathe, inhale like normal, and when we come back, we'll get to working. Well, they left. They were just gonna let me kind of chill out for a minute and let the nitrous kick in. But the problem is, they didn't realize that when they left, I look over and I've got all the controls sitting there. So I'm like, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, baby. And I mean, I just open up the floodgates and I'm in there getting just baked. I don't know what kind of dose I got, but I got all of it. And I had a hell of a time with that. And you still kind of feel the pain, you just don't care. It doesn't affect you. And so I was just like, whatever. And then somehow I had my Black Lightning at the time, and somehow or another I drove home. But yeah, I was absolutely just chilling with dead relatives after that one, man. That was pretty funny. Jonathan's saying, I'm in Indiana, you in Texas. Absolutely in Texas, yes. John saying they're hitting him up a little bit of everything. Marco is in. What is up? Yeah, Skids, I am near Houston. H-Town, baby. Velocito. Speaking of which, it's been like bad boys out here, dude. All kinds of folks looking at speeders, trying to fetch speeders. So Marco's asking, should I boost the regular cab 392? I mean, if you want an extra 125 horsepower, yeah. I mean, that's what I would do. In fact, I even had said a while back, when it really came down to it, let me think about this. It was primarily with the Viper stuff. I had said at one point, I am never going to do a heads and cam combination on anything ever again. I'll just put a blower on it. I don't care if it's more expensive. I'll eat it because I can always see that money again. So, yeah, just throw a blower on it. I mean, it's more money. If you don't have the funds, save up. That's what I did. None of us are made out of cash. And for my projects, the Viper stuff too. I mean, I was eating really clean, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I mean, ain't nothing wrong with, beans and rice when you got a goal. So yeah, small cam and long tubes, perfect for boost. You'll love it. Throw a little D1 Pro Charger on it. Big intercooler, as much intercooler as you can manage. 7 pounds is perfect, absolutely. But still intercool it. I would still run an intercooler. You might need to pulley it a little bit more aggressive just to make sure that you get your 7 pounds at the manifold. You're good. Hell, you can even with a big intercooler, you're going to lose boost, but that's a good thing because the air is condensing in the intercooler. So you lose a little bit of boost and you got a cooler air charge. So that's what I would do. But yeah, I'd said a while ago, I'm never doing another heads cam. Just put a blower on it. Get you a pretty easy, pretty lazy 125, 150 horsepower and wrap it up, call it a day. Speaking of wrapping it up, we are in over an hour. Guys, I got to get back to it. I got to put this thing on the paddock stands and start cleaning it up. And I guess getting it ready for its first oil change. Guys, I want to thank each and every one of y'all for hanging out with me. Would not do this without you. Love all of y'all. But mainly, you know how it goes, guys. Get out there and do something cool for somebody because chances are they need it way more than you know, just like this camera mount. And with that, now that's a wrap. Y'all have a great one. Adios.